main tweens in Adobe Animate. We're going to look at Classic Tween, Motion Tween, and Shape Tween. So let's begin on layer 1 down there in our timeline. In the first keyframe, let's create a little circle. So go into your oval tool, which is O shortcut, hold your shift, draw yourself a circle on the left hand side of your stage. Now change to your selection tool, which is V. Select the circle you just created, and we're going to convert this into a symbol. So go up to Modify, Convert to Symbol, and let's just call that one red and keep it as a graphic. Click OK. Now let's go up to frame 60 on our timeline there on layer 1. Let's click in frame 60. And then what we want to do is add a keyframe in there. So we can only make things happen in Animate and any animation on keyframes. So we're going to go to Insert, Timeline, and down to Keyframe. And you can see there that on my keyframe I have a shortcut there, the number 5 in my number keyboard. You might have a different one on your system. And then we're going to add a keyframe. So if you look down on your timeline now in frame 60, we've got a little black dot. And now between frame 1 and frame 60, you now have this grey bar, which are empty frames. So whilst we still have frame 60 selected, we're going to grab hold of our circle, hold our shift, move it to the right hand side of the stage. So now in frame 1, I have the red ball to the left hand side, frame 60 to the right hand side. If I hit return to play my animation, you'll notice not a lot happens. The red circle stays in frame 1 for 59 frames, and then the 60th frame it jumps to the right hand side of the stage. That's because at the moment, as you can see, we just have empty frames there on our timeline. So if we right click over that grey bar on our timeline, okay, you'll get our animation menu. Basically everything we need to know in Animate happens in this little menu. And we're going to go to the very top and we're going to select Create Classic Tween. You'll see my timeline has now gone purple, okay, with a little arrow in it. So if I hit return now, going from frame 1, you'll see we now have tweening. So it has drawn all the extra frames in for me between frame 1 and frame 60. So if we were going to try and create this as a GIF, we'd want it to loop. So we want it to end at exactly the same place it began. So if we go all the way back to frame 1, click on frame 1 and then right click, we can copy that frame out of our right click menu, and then if we go up to frame 120 and right click over that, we can paste that frame in. Okay, so if I now drag my playhead up, you can see it jumps back to exactly where it began. At the moment between frame 60 and frame 120, you'll see I've got no tweening, I just have blank frames. So if I right click between the two, Create Classic Tween, hit return, you should now see my ball will now go from one side of the screen of the stage to the other. If I export it to watch it play, it will now bounce backwards and forwards from one side of the stage to the other, creating a GIF. So let's name that layer. Let's call it Classic, and then let's lock that layer and hide it. And let's add a new layer, which we're now going to call Motion, as we're going to look at Motion Tweens. So let's bring the playhead all the way back to the beginning, to frame 1. Let's change the colour of our ball. I'll go blue this time. And then up in the top right hand corner, using my oval tool, sorry, left hand corner even, I'm going to draw a little ball. I'm going to select it. I'm going to convert it to a symbol, which is a graphic again. I'm going to call it blue. I'm going to click OK. Now this time, as you can see, I already have 120 frames in, because I've already had another layer below it with 120 frames. It automatically joins it. If I right click over the empty timeline there with no tween in it, this time I'm going to go up from the menu and choose Create Motion Tween. And now I'll get a yellow bar. Okay. The difference with the Motion Tween is I no longer have to insert keyframes. All I need to do is move my timeline, my playhead along the timeline to where I want my next movement to be, and then grab hold of my object and move it to where I want it, and you'll notice it puts a keyframe in automatically for me and creates this path behind the object. So I'm just going to quickly make a bit of a bouncing ball. So frame 60, then maybe let's go to frame 80. Let's maybe go a little bit lower. Lower, and then I might just roll it off the side like that. Okay, so what you've got now, if I press return, okay, my object, in this case the blue circle, the ball will follow the path I made. It's not very realistic at the moment because it's a very jagged path. So what you've now got, using my selection tool, is this path it leaves behind. As I get near it, you'll see I get a little sort of smiley face almost off the side of the cursor. I can now edit that path. Okay, I can even get hold of the middle point, like the anchor point at the top, center it up. So quickly just make that look a little bit more natural. Okay, and now when I play it, you'll see it will now follow a better curve. Okay, so that is a motion tween. Much better if you want to have things following more interesting paths than just a sort of point A to point B. Very quick to use because you haven't got to set keyframes, and then you just get back to go and edit your path afterwards if you want to adapt its motion. Okay, so let's do the same again. Lock and hide that layer. Let's do one more. Add another layer. This time we're going to call it shape because we're going to make a shape tween. Make sure we bring the playhead back to the beginning. Change the color. So I'm going to make a green one this time. I'm going to make another circle. Okay, in the middle, quite a big circle this time. In the middle of my stage. This time though, I'm not going to convert it to a symbol. So shape tweening is the difference to the raw. Okay, this time we need it to stay as a raw drawing file for it to edit its shape. So we're going to move the playhead up to frame 60. Okay, I'm going to add a keyframe. So I have a shortcut of 5. Okay, or it's insert, modify, insert timeline keyframe. And now I'm going to hit delete. I'm going to get rid of that green square, circle even. And now I'm going to create a square. Using my rectangle tool in a different color. So I'm going to place in the middle. And if I scrub my playhead, you can see it goes green, red, and then on the very end, I'm going to go back to the first keyframe. I'm going to copy that frame like we did when we did the classic tween. Go up to frame 120. Right click over that frame and paste it. So I now have the green circle on the end. So I've now got green circle, red square, green circle. Now if I right click, okay, over the empty timeline, I can go create shape tween. I'll do the same in the second half, create shape tween. Okay, and what happens now is it morphs between one shape and the other and the color changes too. Okay, so that's a great little tween. For editing shapes, for moving from one thing into the other very quickly, and does it very smoothly for you. So if I go command return, so I can display this, let's have a look. Okay, you'll see that the paths disappeared from the motion tween, you don't get to see them, but what you can see from this is that you can have all different things happening independently on different layers. Okay, so you can have different animations happening all at the same time doing very different things. I can even change the order of that, so I can move the shape layer to the bottom as it's the biggest animation, just like I would in any other Adobe software. Okay, and now these objects are happening in front of it. Okay, so that is the basic 3 tweens in Adobe Animate.